You grew up, but parts of you are still stuck in that time when it hurt too much. They're old wounds hidden beneath automatic smiles, poorly timed jokes, or deep silences no one understands. These scars don't show up in the mirror, but they shape the way you relate, how you defend yourself, what you fear. Childhood isn't just a distant memory, it's emotional programming. And until you look at what you went through with compassion, those marks will keep running your life without you even noticing. This isn't drama, it's survival. And healing only truly begins when you recognize the pain. Have you ever felt childish during an argument? Crying, shutting down, or exploding as if you were thrown back in time? That happens because childhood trauma doesn't age. It hides, waiting for similar situations to reappear. In the middle of conflict, it's not the adult you've become who takes control, but the wounded child who was never heard. That child cries out for protection, even if you can't tell. And that's why you overreact or freeze without knowing why. That reaction isn't weakness. It's a silent plea for comfort. Healing begins when you listen to that child with love, instead of silencing them with guilt. That voice telling you you're not enough, maybe it was never yours to begin with. It might be the echo of someone who once humiliated you, ignored you, or made you believe you had to be perfect to deserve love. That voice was planted when you had no defenses, when you believed everything adults said. Over time, it disguised itself as your own conscience, but it's not. It's a replay of trauma. And every time you blame yourself, belittle yourself, or compare yourself, that voice wins again. Breaking free starts with a single question: who taught me to treat myself this way? If loving yourself feels terrifying, it's not because you don't know how to feel. It's because at some point feeling became dangerous. Maybe love came wrapped in rejection, abandonment, or violence. So your body learned to protect itself even in the presence of kindness. You push people away before they can leave. You close your heart before someone can break it, not out of coldness, but as a survival instinct. Real love requires surrender, but trauma taught you to stay on guard. And that's why you still sabotage yourself when emotions arise. Sometimes happiness arrives and you run, or you destroy it before it even has a chance to take root. This isn't bad luck or fate. It's protection. When childhood was unstable, your system learned that joy always comes right before the fall. So now being happy feels unsafe. You anticipate pain as a way to stay in control, but that traps you in a cycle where pain feels more familiar than peace. You're not doomed to sadness, you're just used to it. And rewiring that takes time, but it all starts with one step: allowing yourself to believe you deserve what you never had. This fear that makes you settle for crumbs, beg for attention, or avoid deep connections, it has a root. It was born the moment you needed someone, and they weren't there, emotionally or physically. Abandonment doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it's the silence, the disinterest, the empty stare. And the child you once were learned that love is risky, that being left is inevitable. So now you constantly try to protect yourself from pain, even without realizing it. But this fear isn't weakness. It's an old wound, and every wound, with care, can be healed. Trust requires safety, and if your childhood was filled with broken promises, emotional instability, or betrayal, trust became a risk, not a relief. That's why now, even when someone shows love, you pull back. You wait for it to hurt. You look for signs of rejection before anything has even gone wrong. That's not paranoia, it's self-protection. But living in constant alertness keeps you from experiencing the ease of surrender. Learning to trust again is like learning how to breathe, hard at first, but essential to truly live. Even if you don't have clear memories, your body holds records of everything you've been through. It remembers the fear, the tension, the abandonment. That's why sometimes you have anxiety attacks for no clear reason, recurring pain, or persistent insomnia. It's not drama, it's body memory. Trauma lives in your muscles, in your breath, in your heartbeat. And while you ignore these sensations, you'll keep fighting yourself. Listening to your body is listening to the past, and it just wants to be released. You say yes when you want to say no. You tolerate what hurts, and later you blame yourself. That happens because at some point, setting boundaries meant losing love, approval, or even safety. So you learn to stay quiet, to shrink, to swallow your truth. And now, even as an adult, you still fear rejection when you try to stand up for yourself. But every time you silence your needs, you reinforce the belief that your pain matters less than other people's comfort. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's a rescue. It is the voice of the child who finally learned to protect themselves with firmness and compassion. Being strong became your armor. You learned that crying is weakness, asking for help is shameful, feeling is dangerous. So you hide behind a fortress that isolates you, even when you're surrounded by people. But deep down, you're tired. There's a scream inside, begging for rest. Being strong all the time makes you sick. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable isn't failure. It's the beginning of freedom. Even the strongest walls need a crack for the light to come in. You bend over backward to be accepted. You say what people want to hear. You do everything for everyone, even when you're exhausted. That pattern isn't kindness, it's survival. Maybe in childhood, pleasing others was the only way to earn love or avoid punishment. So now, you chase approval like you chase air. But that disconnects you from who you really are. Who you are. Pleasing everyone often means abandoning yourself, and you weren't born to disappear for anyone's comfort. You deserve to be a priority too. Sometimes you feel broken, out of place, disconnected from everything. But what if that's just your system trying to protect you from old pain? Avoiding attachments, trying to control everything, isolating yourself, ... Those are defense mechanisms. Your brain learned how to survive, even if the cost was your joy. You're not broken, you're in self-protection mode. And recognizing that is the first step toward reconnecting with life, with others, and most importantly, with yourself. Intimacy requires showing up as you are. But when being seen once meant danger, shame, or pain, your body learns to hide. You might crave love and still pull away when it gets close. It's not inconsistency, it's trauma. Intimacy touches wounds you're still trying to hide, even from yourself. But it can also become the space for healing, for safety, for the kind of comfort you never had. Let yourself take it slow. Every step toward intimacy is an act of courage. You explode without knowing why. You feel angry at the world, at people, at yourself. But behind that anger, there's often unprocessed grief. Grief for a lost childhood, for love that never came, for the safety you never knew. Anger is easier to express than pain, but it traps you in cycles of guilt and distance. Looking at your anger with compassion is the first step to hearing what it really wants to say. I'm still grieving everything I never had. Inside every wounded adult, there's a scared child still waiting to be held. Healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about going back for that child, holding them close and telling them they're safe now. It's teaching them they no longer need to please, to stay silent, or to hide. That now there is choice. There is a voice. There is care. Reparenting is becoming the adult you once needed and never had. It's not easy, but it's profoundly freeing. And every act of self-care is a seed planted in this new emotional childhood. Many of the pains you carry aren't yours, they were inherited. From your family, from your culture, from the environment you grew up in. You learn to carry responsibilities that were never yours, emotions that don't belong to you, guilt that wasn't born in you. That's why, so often, you feel exhausted without knowing why. Letting go of that weight is an act of self-love. You don't have to keep repeating stories you didn't choose. You can leave the burden where it started and walk lighter, more whole, more you. If you grew up in chaos, constant criticism, or emotional insecurity, peace might feel strange to you. Silence makes you uneasy, calm feels suspicious. But that is not because you don't deserve peace. It is because it never felt familiar. Peace needs to be relearned. It needs space, inner quiet, and practice. And above all, permission. You don't have to live on high alert to feel alive. You can rest, you can breathe, you can exist without fear. Peace isn't a reward, it's a right. How many times have you apologized for feeling, for taking up space, for being who you are? That constant apology comes from a place where you were made to believe your presence was a burden. But you don't have to shrink yourself to be accepted. You don't have to hide your pain to be loved. Your existence is valid, even on the days you can't smile. You don't need permission to be. You are enough, exactly as you are. Love doesn't have to be earned through effort, pain, or sacrifice. But if your childhood taught you otherwise, maybe now you associate love with struggle, waiting, and wounds. And when someone loves you simply, you doubt it. But the truth is, you don't need to suffer to be worthy. True love embraces, it doesn't wound. It nurtures, it doesn't demand pain in return. Allow yourself to experience a love that doesn't hurt. It begins inside you. You shaped yourself to survive. You created masks, routines, defenses. And while those strategies protected you, they're not your identity. They were responses to what hurt. But now you have a choice. You can stop reacting to the past and begin living from your truth. Your coping mechanisms are not who you are. You are so much more. You are what blooms when fear quiets down. You are what remains when pain finds compassion. You are life, the kind that insists on growing even after everything. I need to remind you of something important. You are not alone. Even if the world feels far away, even if the pain refuses to leave, you can count on us. This channel was created for exactly that, to be a safe haven. Because I, Elena Gray, have walked through that darkness too. I felt broken, invisible, out of place. And from that pain, the desire was born to create a space where healing could begin. If you're ready to take a first step, here are some suggestions that helped me and might help you too. Conscious breathing exercise. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds. Hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do this for 2 minutes when anxiety rises. Calming teas like chamomile, fennel, or lavender help your body slow down and find some peace. Pray or meditate at night. No matter your belief, talking to what you feel or to something greater brings relief. Write down everything you feel before bed without judgment. Releasing emotions on paper is freeing. Therapies like EMDR, schema therapy, or reparenting are deeply effective for childhood trauma. And remember, taking care of yourself is unselfish. It has survival with dignity. Now, if any of this touched you, subscribe to the channel. Here, every video is a silent hug. And in the comments, share what you're feeling, what you need, how I can support you. This space is yours. Oh, and share this video with someone who's silently struggling. You might be the light in their tunnel. And if you feel like social media is draining you and you don't even know why, watch the video I left in the card and in the description, why social media is draining you. It might open your eyes and ease your heart. You deserve healing. You deserve peace. And we are here with you, for you, always.